Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Compelling Yelling MCU Ranking. Pretty excited to continue. Number 14, Captain America. Captain America is a very, very solid first film for one of the main four. I will absolutely grant. I think it is the weakest one we got. There aren't a whole lot of problems. There's not a lot of issues to take. I just think the story it tells is a little cliche. It tells it well enough, I will absolutely grant. And Chris Evans is perfect in the role of Captain America. He's pitch perfect. I'll say that every time. He is perfect for the role of Captain America. He perfectly gets across the heart and soul of what that character is. And I think he does it as well as Robert Downey Jr. does with Iron Man. I actually think the supporting players are really good for this movie, especially for how early it is in the MCU. They kind of nailed supporting characters in this one. Howard Stark being played by Dominic Cooper. Dominic Cooper is one of my favorite actors in the world right now. He's in the AMC show Preacher, and if you guys haven't watched it, you definitely need to. It is absolutely incredible. It's the best show on television, in my opinion. Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter is definitely a really good love interest for the earlier parts. I think we get some more compelling love interests later on. I think the weakest link of this movie is, unfortunately, I'm gonna say this quite a few times, it's the villain. I love Hugo Weaving to death. I think he is legitimately an incredible actor. I don't think this movie really does anything interesting with him. I'm not saying they use him poorly, but I'm saying as an actor, they don't play to his strengths, which is really goofy, over-the-top monologues that I think he just nails in every single thing he's in. Go watch the Matrix movies. Those movies are terrible. And then Hugo Weaving comes on screen and you're like, why did this movie get interesting all of a sudden? It's almost like he's the only person who made a character choice. That's weird, only it's not weird because it's a Matrix movie. Sebastian Stan is Bucky. He is okay. He's the greatest. This certainly isn't his best outing as the character, which everybody knows at this point. It's just, the cat's out of the bag. Bucky is Winter Soldier. Everybody knows that now. It was a twist when Winter Soldier came out, but it's not a twist now. And I think that unfortunately with time passing, his performance specifically has been overshadowed by his own performances later. Oh, what is the name? He's the character actor and he plays the scientist in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Toby Jones.
Toby Jones. Toby Jones, who is a character actor who a lot of you, I'm sure, have seen, but probably just don't know his name. He is delightful as Dr. Zola. I really like Toby Jones, and I think this movie specifically put him on screen because they didn't quite know what to do with Elrond. They were just like, that's not working quite as well as we thought it would. Throw in a weird bald dude. And then the weird bald dude is like, yes, I'm going to experiment on you. And that was like a Dexter's Laboratory voice. He has a crew that is like the pre-Vengers, the pre-Avengers. They're super shallow. None of them really get a lot of development. They don't really matter in the larger scale of things. They're fun for this movie, I'll say that. But yeah, no, solid first outing for Captain America, but definitely the weakest of the intro movies for our main four. And definitely the weakest outing for Captain America in general. I mean, no, that's just true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 13, Thor. Yeah, Thor 1, another intro movie of one of our main four. What do you know? It's the second strongest one. It's a little bit better than Captain America. I don't think it's a whole lot better. I've stated how I feel about Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is my least favorite actress in Hollywood outside of Charlize Theron.
Okay, yeah. I perked up as soon as I was like,
I dislike Charlize Theron quite a bit. Chris Hemsworth kills it in this movie. I think he plays the character of Thor perfectly. Daniel, my cameraman, Thor is your favorite hero, right?
Superhero,
Yeah. Do you think Chris Hemsworth is greatest? Like,
I mean, I don't know who else you would choose. Yeah,
he's undebatably like perfect for the character.
and mentally built for the role.
Exactly. Loki. Tom Hiddleston is Loki. There's a reason people remember him, and it is unfortunately not this movie. I actually think the Thor movies don't give Loki a whole lot to do. He has his moments where he shines, but for the most part, he's actually just kind of like a fine side character. He is technically the antagonist of this movie, but that's only because this movie doesn't really have an antagonist. In my opinion, the antagonist of this movie is Thor himself, and he has to overcome his own, cocky and like self-assured ways. And I think if you watch it that way, you actually might enjoy this movie a lot more. Getting Kenneth Branagh, who is primarily a Shakespearean director, getting him to direct this movie was such a good idea because it allowed him to really play up how kind of goofy the old way that these people speak sounds to modern ears, I guess. I can't think of another example that pulls that off. Kenneth Branagh is a solid director, and I'm definitely glad he directed this movie. I'm a little sad he didn't come back for Thor: The Dark World. Maybe it wouldn't have been as garbage if he did. I said Natalie Portman's bad. I've said Kat Dennings is bad. And Kat Dennings is in this movie too, and what do you know? She's bad. Stellan Skarsgård, though, the man. I love me some Stellan Skarsgård. He is the most convincing scientist in the MCU that's not Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo. Those two like just sell it completely. I think Stellan Skarsgård comes really close to those two though. Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson. This is a great outing for him. I think he steals the show when he's on screen. He is, without a doubt, one of the most charming actors alive. It's a shame that his character was only kept alive in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a show I just refuse to watch because I just don't care enough. I'm fine. I'll watch the Netflix shows. I don't want to get cable to watch ABC to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Is it CW?
I don't think so. No, CW is Warner Brothers.
Well, they do like Flash and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a DC. Yeah, I'm stupid.
Jeremy Renner shows up for the first time in this movie as Hawkeye, and he gets exactly one scene, and it's fine. It's not offensive in any way. I think Jeremy Renner is a really good actor. I think he's really good as Hawkeye, but they don't really do anything with him in this movie. Anthony Hopkins as Odin. Man, this guy steals the show every time he's on screen. He is an award-winning actor. Dude has portrayed everything under the sun and done it with like style. And then we get this, and he's so over the top. I can't help but love his performance. When he banishes Thor and starts whispering to the hammer, he's like, "Whosoever finds this hammer," this is a bad Hopkins, "whosoever finds this hammer shall be worthy of the power of Thor." And he's like, and he just looks like a pirate the entire time because of the eye patch. Anthony Hopkins kills it in this movie, and I'm really happy he does. Thor is great. I like Thor. A lot of the parts that are smaller don't come together like they should. Lady Sif is, in my opinion, the worst female character in the MCU. I don't understand why you're cosplaying her. Please stop doing that. She's not a good character. She's not a strong female character. She shows up for 2 scenes, and she's like, "I'm a fight frost." This is this actress too.
What?
I'm a fight on the frost giants, and they're going to melt. No, I'm gonna fight frost giants with you, Thor. not great at the British accent. And then the second scene she shows up is she comes to the small town and she's like, hey Thor, and then the destroyer comes down and Thor's like, I have to fight this alone. And she's like, no, let me help. And he's like, no, you're useless, don't worry about it. And it's true, she's useless, and so is everybody else in that squad. Ragnarok is the exact treatment these guys deserved, except Lady Sif, just not in the movie. She should have gotten murdered with Hammered Guy, and Rapier Dude, or maybe racist Japanese caricature man.
Also, before you start, oh, okay, well I sent you a picture, it corrected itself, but my app glitched out and changed Chris Hemsworth's picture. Now it's not showing up. Look at it on your phone.
My phone is very low battery.
Just look at the picture.
I'm very excited.
I don't know whose picture that is, but apparently it's Chris Hemsworth. What the fuck is that?
I'm putting that in my video.
I sent you the picture.
Number 12, Guardians of the Galaxy. Wow, these guys were unknowns. You realize that, right? Like think back to before this movie came out. None of us knew who these people were. And they were like, hey, James Gunn, you want to come in and absolutely kill it? And he's like, I can't do anything else. I'm a robot, and that's the only setting I have, is kill it. He has to introduce Groot, Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket, and Drax all in one movie, make them feel like developed characters, and he totally does. James Gunn is the perfect director for this. I struggle to say there's another director who is as perfect for the movie they directed as James Gunn is for the Guardians films. And all of those five, they're great. Peter Quill, Star-Lord, Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt, coming off of Parks and Rec, he stopped being a chubby guy. And that's just not fair. Everybody's gotta be hot now. Chris Pratt became hot for this movie, and all I want is a fat superhero. Please, come on. Just put me in a movie. I'll play fat guy. Gamora, Zoe Saldana. Zoe Saldana is an incredible actress. I really love her, and she's so good as Gamora. She plays easily the most conflicted character in the film, and she's just a joy to watch. Dave Bautista as Drax? Holy crap. Like, who knew wrestling would facilitate acting? I did. I knew that. I just didn't think Batista would be one of the good ones. And he is. He's hilarious. He's so funny. I literally can't believe how good he is in this movie, and he continues to kill it. Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon. There are several times where his performance just makes me forget it's Bradley Cooper, because it's not that handsome mug just glued onto a raccoon body. He's so good in this. He loses himself in this character, and I love it. And of course, fan favorite Groot is introduced in this movie, and it's Vin Diesel. He has two lines. I am Groot, we are Groot, and it's just variations of that one line for most of the movie, and yet somehow they didn't get nobody to play this role. They went and got Vin Diesel, because he is 100% separated from his own ego, and I adore that. He's so good as Groot, and it's such a simple performance, but it still like has layers in it. I don't understand how he did it. He legitimately impressed me with this performance. I really love it. Michael Rooker as Yondu. He's great, don't get me wrong. He's a little bit thrown away in this film. He has one really good set piece that is completely blown out of the water by a very similar set piece in Guardians 2. But like, for the time, I was still just like, yeah, dude, show me more Yondu. And then he obliged with the sequel. I love, Michael Rooker's a great actor. I'm really, really happy that he is Yondu. Karen Gillan. Wow. She played Blue Lady. Blue Lady named Nebula. Yeah. I love you, Karen Gillan. You didn't have to shave your head for this movie. You didn't shave your head for the sequel. but she was getting into it, dude. She's not that kind of actress. She's gonna get into any role she gets, and that's why she's so good. And her as Nebula, amazing. Just without a doubt, an amazing thing. All of those characters I just mentioned, with the exception of Nebula, they all have multiple jokes that even if you're watching alone, if you're watching it for the first time, they will literally make you cackle out loud. Like, I watched this movie alone in the theaters for the first time. I laughed so hard. It is so surprising how funny this movie is if you're not aware of who James Gunn is. And even me being generally aware of who he is, I was still taken off guard by how actually hilarious this movie is. There is a weak link, and it's the thing that definitely drags this movie away from being better than it could, or better, I guess, just better in general. Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser. I've got a sledgehammer, but I don't have a character. He's really boring. Like he should have been the villain of Thor: The Dark World. He is crazy boring. He doesn't make up for his lack of boring with Scale movie. You can't just give him a sledgehammer, then he gets an Infinity Stone and he's like, put it in the sledgehammer, I'm interesting now! I was like, nope, you're not. You're not. He gets one good joke, but it's just a response to Peter Quill doing something goofy, and that's fine, but for the most part, he's easily the most forgettable part of this movie. I know a lot of people who just straight up don't remember Ronan the Accuser's name. I will never forget it because it's so dumb and it's bad. He's just got a Triple H sledgehammer. That's not a character. Sean Gunn. Number 11, Thor Ragnarok. The best of the Thor movies, very easily, and if you don't know why, it's just because you don't know who the director is. Taika Waititi is, in my opinion, the single most talented comedic director on the planet. He is so aggressively funny, and he also just has a style that's all his own. So when they sign him on to do a Marvel movie, good things happen. And luckily, they signed him on to do Thor because they were like, we really need to do damage control for the Thor franchise because the Dark World is that bad. So they're like, Taika Waititi, be weird on camera. And he does, and it's great. Chris Hemsworth, again, he's great as Thor. This movie does bring up something that I think isn't brought up enough, and it's that Chris Hemsworth is a great comedic actor. Like, when it arises and he needs to be, he's phenomenal at it. He's really good in this movie, and he's really genuinely funny. Loki doesn't really do anything in this movie. He gets some jokes, and they kind of work, but they don't really do anything with him in this movie. This movie isn't why we love Loki. This movie is a byproduct of the fact that we do. I think Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, she is real good, and she's a super strong love interest, and I don't have any problems with her performance. I think she's really funny, actually. I can't not mention Mark Ruffalo and how Mark Ruffalo kind of steals the show in this movie. The Hulk versus Thor set piece is easily top 3 Marvel fight scenes. I'm pretty upset that they spoiled that was going to happen in the trailers. It didn't need to be spoiled. We absolutely did not need to know that was going to happen. And I think it would have been a lot more pleasing, to me at least, if I had no idea that was coming. And this is the closest we're going to get to Planet Hulk, which is also something I really love. So it's like, I really wish they wouldn't have put it in trailers. Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner even. He's so good. He's just really good. The performances in this movie are great. There's not really a weak performance out of the bunch. Jeff Goldblum as the guy who oversees the planet, he's amazing. He's so funny. And this movie plays into what makes Jeff Goldblum great, unlike the Independence Day sequel that just had no idea why we like Jeff Goldblum. That's also going to happen in the Jurassic World sequel. Calling it now. They have no idea why we like Jeff Goldblum. Wes Anderson understands it, and Taika Waititi understands it. That's the end of it. Carl Urban as Scourge. I always forget it, and it's with a K. That's why I always want to say like killer or something. Killmonger is what I want to say, yeah. Carl Urban as Scourge. It's a small role. Carl Urban is great. I have never not liked Carl Urban in a movie. He's another actor who is completely separated from his ego, and that appeals to me a lot in an actor. I love that. He gets a few jokes that are pretty great. He's the second least funny character in this movie. The least funny character in this movie is Hela, and that's because hella scary. Kate Blanchett, boy, you like, Marvel knocked it out of the park, going like, hey, Kate Blanchett, you want to play like scary Galadriel from Lord of the Rings? And she's like, I already did that in Lord of the Rings. And they were like, you want to play like scary Galadriel, but she can like throw knives? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And she does, and she nails every second of it. It's great. She gets one joke, and it's a good joke. I mean, it made me giggle. Anthony Hopkins as Odin. I have a feeling that the Odin shtick kinda got to him for this movie, because he gives a much more subdued performance in this film, and he's also just like out of there immediately. He's like, you have me for 3 days, shoot what you need. And I think that's fine. Like, I'm not complaining, but I wish we got the silly, over-the-top Odin that we get in the first movie. But I think what he does is still pretty good, and he has a very touching scene. Idris Elba as Heimdall. I'm not normally into dreads because they kind of gross me out. Idris Elba, the most attractive man alive, in my opinion, the most talented actor alive. Turns out, you can just put dreads on him, and I'm still just like, give me that Idris. Put that Idris in my face. I love Idris Elba. I think in this movie, he is so good. He's so impressive as an actor to me, because it doesn't matter what he's doing, I genuinely find him fun to watch. And in this movie, the like hooded, cloaked, dreaded Heimdall is just, he's a joy. I wish he had a little bit more, but I understand why he didn't. He's great in the movie though. And lastly, I want to talk about Korg. Everybody knows who Korg is. You guys all know who Korg is. Number 10, Black Panther. I think Black Panther is good. I don't think it's as good as the rest of y'all did. I think all of the supporting people in this movie carry this movie. The highest being Andy Serkis. I want to start with Andy Serkis, because Andy Serkis is the villain for the first half of this movie, and he is, without a doubt, always the most interesting thing when he's on screen. He's just such a good actor. Andy Serkis is putting in work all the time. He's so fun to watch. Like, I'm genuinely sad he dies halfway through this movie. Forgive me for the butchering of basically every name I'm about to say, because I have trouble sometimes. Denai Guerrera as Okoye, she's excellent. She is such a good character. Every little nuance of her is like so perfectly telegraphed with her face, and it's great because she also portrays a very stoic character, but still the emotions come through. Letitia Wright as Shuri. I think she is the most enjoyable side character in this movie outside of Andy Serkis. I think she is so good at what her role is. Her character is so perfect. It's like perfectly defined. I can't explain to you how much I really appreciate her performance in this movie. And then they give her like punchy gauntlets at the end, and it's like, yeah, man, get it, Sherry. You're killing it, dude. Daniel Kaluuya as W'Kabi. He doesn't do a whole lot. I mainly want to mention him because of Get Out. And how happy I am that that dude is getting work now, because he's a very good actor. He's definitely good in this movie. He just doesn't do a whole lot. He just goes from like, you are my brother, to you didn't kill that guy, I'm mad at you. And that's kind of his entire arc. And then he's like, wait, my wife said nah, so like I'm going back. And it's great. It's actually very fun to watch. Martin Freeman as Agent Ross. I thought his character in Civil War was so small that I literally couldn't make a judgment on it. So when I heard that he was a big part of this movie, I was very excited to see it. And he kind of does it, man. He's really good. If you're going to choose a guy to be like the fish out of water, I think that he is like the best actor for that right now. You go watch the Hobbit movies, which are pure trash, and then he's carrying those movies on his back like a trooper. You go watch Sherlock, and you know, the first season of Sherlock is basically just Martin Freeman looking into camera like, how could you know that? I love Sherlock. Don't let that make you think I think it's stupid or anything. I really like that show. Martin Freeman's great in this movie. He carries his character, and he makes his character a lot more compelling than I think most other actors would be able to. I really like Martin Freeman in this movie. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. Man, that is a goofy name for the best villain in the Marvel franchise outside of one other one. The reason he's the second best villain in the MCU is because he's the second most understandable villain in the MCU. You go over to Infinity War and you understand Thanos a little bit better than you understand Killmonger. But Killmonger still totally rules in this movie. Michael B. Jordan was perfect casting. I think his entire idea of how things should go wasn't even like bad. It was like, in your head, you're like, yeah, I totally agree with you. And then he's like, activate the sleeper cells. We want to kill everyone. And then you're like, I'm part of everyone. Can you do it like a better way? His final scene in this movie is legitimately heart-wrenching, and it perfectly ties a bow on his character. And I think with an inferior actor, you wouldn't have gotten as strong of a character, I guess. Now it's time to talk about the negatives. And there's one name you might have noticed that I didn't mention. And this is going to be rough, because I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me. But this is my opinion. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying my opinion's better than yours. I'm just saying this is how I felt about this. Chadwick Boseman. I think Chadwick Boseman drops the ball in this movie. I think he is genuinely giving 50% to this film at most times. At its peak, he's given like 75. And I don't understand why. I think Chadwick Boseman's a phenomenal actor. I think he gives really good performances as this character in Civil War. He's really good as T'Challa in Civil War, but in this film, he's just kind of weirdly subdued. And I'm wondering if that's maybe because he's not the kind of actor that can play the same character over and over again, or he's not the kind of actor that at least wants to. And the weirdest part of my experience watching this movie, the 2 times that I have watched it, was coming out both times and going like, Chadwick Boseman just kind of wasn't there. And I really wish that wasn't true, because the rest of this movie is so good. But Chadwick Boseman's entire performance feels like he was phoning it in almost, and I wish that wasn't the case. The love interest in this movie, Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, she is a nothing character that probably shouldn't have been introduced in this film. She does nothing. Her entire thing is like, I don't want to be the queen. I want to go and have adventures. And I'm like, right on, man. Yeah, keep going on that path. Keep developing this character. Give me some more, and I will love this. And then she goes away. And then she comes back 2/3 of the way through the movie. And she's like, oh no, my man is in danger. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the movie comes to this climax, and she's like, I still don't want to rule. And then Chadwick Boseman's like, do you want to kiss though? And she's like, yeah. Not for a film that has one of the strongest, two of the strongest female characters in the MCU. The love interest in this movie is still as 2D and flat as the worst of these movies. And that kind of sucks. You know what's good about this movie though? Its director. Ryan Coogler is such a good director. Creed's real good. That's also Michael B. Jordan, dude. Ryan Coogler, please keep making movies. You're great. I'm very excited for the Creed sequel. I'm very excited for this movie's sequel. I'm very excited to see what you do in the future because I really love your work. I think you're a great director. Today's a good day.